You know, when we look at the world today and think that everything is lost, that it's never been harder to live, and that problems are bigger than ever? Yeah, I used to think that way too, until I started studying a little bit about what life was like 2,000 years ago, in the time of Jesus. And do you know what I discovered? That people's problems were very similar to ours. Let me tell you a story to illustrate this. It's the story of Pedro, a man I met who taught me that Jesus' teachings are just as current today as they were back then. Come with me. Pedro was one of those guys you look at and think, this guy has it all. A good job, the latest model car, an apartment in an upscale neighborhood. On his social media, there were only beautiful photos, fancy places, and smiling people. But the truth, my friend, is that on the inside, Pedro was drowning. Literally drowning in worry, anxiety, and fear of the future. He worked at a big bank in a management position. He earned well, that's true. But he lived in fear of losing his job, fear of not being able to pay the bills, fear of disappointing his family, fear of not being enough. Every Sunday night, Pedro would already start feeling that tightness in his chest, thinking about Monday. During the week, he barely slept. He would check emails in the middle of the night, thinking about work problems, planning, worrying. His wife, Carla, was always complaining that he wasn't present, that even when he was home, his head was at work. His 2 young children almost never saw their father. And when they did, Pedro was always on his cell phone, always solving something, always tense. The worst part is that Pedro couldn't stop. It was as if there was a motor inside him that never turned off. He always thought that if he didn't worry too much, if he didn't plan every detail, if he didn't control everything, things would go wrong. He also had this constant comparison habit, you know. He looked at colleagues who had better positions and felt inferior. He saw people on social media traveling, buying things, and got that feeling that he was falling behind. He bought things he didn't need just to feel like he was progressing. He changed cars unnecessarily. He bought designer clothes, all to keep up appearances, to show others he was doing well, that he was somebody. But on the inside, it was chaos. One day, Pedro had an anxiety attack at work. It was so strong they thought it was a heart attack. They rushed him to the hospital. He did all the tests, and his heart was fine. It was just anxiety. The doctor, a gentleman of about 60, looked at him and said, "Young man, you are killing yourself slowly. And for what? For things you cannot control. You need to learn to live one day at a time." Pedro left the hospital that day with a prescription for anxiety medication and medical advice to seek help. But do you know what happened? He didn't seek it. He thought he could handle it alone. He took the medicine for a few days and went back to the same crazy routine as always, until something happened that changed everything. It was a Friday afternoon. Pedro was at the office as always, solving 1,000 things at once. His phone rang. It was his son's school. "Mr. Pedro, this is Miguel's school. Can you come pick him up? He's not feeling well." Pedro's heart raced. He dropped everything and ran out. When he arrived at the school, he found Miguel, 7 years old, sitting in the nurse's office with the coordinator. "What happened?" Pedro asked, worried. "He had a crying fit during class," the coordinator explained. "He started crying and couldn't stop. He said he was scared." "Scared of what?" Miguel looked at his father with tear-filled eyes and said, "Scared that you're going to die, Dad. You're always saying you're stressed, that your heart is bad, that you're going to have a heart attack. I'm scared you'll die and leave me alone." Folks, Pedro told me that in that moment, the world stopped. He had never thought that his worries, his stress, were affecting his son in that way, that a 7-year-old child was carrying a terrible fear because of him. He picked the boy up, hugged him tight, and cried with him. Right there, in the school nurse's office, Pedro understood that he needed to change. Not for himself, but for his children, for his wife, for his family. He took Miguel home and talked to Carla. He told her everything, the fear, the anxiety, the feeling of always being on the edge. And she, with the patience of someone who truly loves, said, "Pedro, I've been trying to tell you this for ages. You need help. We need to change our lives. That was when an aunt of Carla's, who was visiting the family that weekend, joined the conversation. Donna Teresa was a simple lady from the countryside, one of those people who possess a wisdom that doesn't come from books, but from life. "My son," she said to Pedro, "you are worrying too much about tomorrow and forgetting to live today. Do you know what Jesus said about this?" Pedro felt a bit awkward. He had been raised going to church but hadn't attended in years. Religion, for him, was something for old-fashioned people who didn't understand the modern world. But Donna Teresa continued, unbothered. Jesus spoke to the disciples like this: "Look at the birds. They don't plant, they don't harvest, they don't store food in barns, yet the Heavenly Father takes care of them. Are you not worth much more than the birds?" Pedro was about to say something, but she continued, "And do you know what else he said? Look at the lilies of the field. They don't work, they don't make clothes. But I tell you, not even King Solomon with all his wealth was dressed as beautifully as these flowers." "But Donna Teresa," Pedro tried to argue, "the world today is different. We have bills to pay, responsibilities." "I know, my son, I know. But Jesus knew that too. He wasn't saying for us to stand still, doing nothing. He was telling us not to be distressed, not to worry too much about tomorrow. He said, each day has enough trouble of its own." Pedro fell silent. Those simple words, spoken by a lady from the countryside, touched him in a way no doctor, no self-help book had managed to. "Do you know what you need to learn, Pedro?" Donna Teresa continued. "You need to learn to trust, to have faith, to do what needs to be done today, without killing yourself with the worries of tomorrow." That night, Pedro couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Donna Teresa's words, about how he had spent years killing himself with work, with worry, trying to control everything. And in the end, what had he achieved? Scared children, a sad wife, shaken health. On Saturday morning, he woke up different. He woke up with a desire to change that he had never felt before. He turned off his work phone, something he never did on weekends, and spent the entire day playing with his children. He went to the park, played ball, had a picnic. Simple things he hadn't done in years. And do you know what he realized? That he was happy. That those simple moments with his family were worth more than any promotion, any new car, any material thing. On Monday, Pedro went back to work, but he went back different. He started delegating tasks that he previously insisted on doing alone. He started trusting his colleagues more. He stopped checking emails in the middle of the night. He sought professional help too. He started therapy, learned breathing techniques, mindfulness. But what helped him the most, he says to this day, were the teachings of Jesus that Donna Teresa had shared. Pedro started studying more about what Jesus taught, and he started discovering incredible things. He discovered that Jesus spoke a lot about not accumulating treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, about putting your heart in the right things. And this made Pedro rethink everything. He had spent years accumulating things, cars, apartments, clothes, electronics. But none of that had brought peace. On the contrary, the more he had, the more he wanted. The more he worried about maintaining it, the more he feared losing it. He and Carla did a cleanup of their lives. They sold the brand new car and bought a simpler one. They traded the big apartment in a fancy neighborhood for a smaller house in a quieter neighborhood, closer to the children's school. They donated a bunch of stuff they didn't use. His co-workers thought he had gone crazy. "What do you mean you're going to live in a simpler neighborhood? What do you mean you sold that big car?" But Pedro didn't care anymore. He had found something much more valuable: peace. Pedro also discovered something else Jesus taught, about being light in the world. Jesus said that we are the light of the world, and that you cannot put the light under a basket. You have to let it shine for everyone to see. This moved Pedro. He realized he had spent years focused only on himself, on his problems, on his success. He never stopped to think about how he could help other people. He started slowly. First, he volunteered to help at an institution that gave tutoring classes to underprivileged children. He spent one Saturday a month there, teaching math. A simple thing, but it made a huge difference in those children's lives. Then, He started noticing the people around him at work more. There was an intern struggling, and instead of criticizing, Pedro sat down with him and taught him. There was a colleague going through a hard time, and instead of pretending not to see, Pedro offered help. And do you know what happened? The more Pedro served, the happier he became. It was as if he had discovered the secret of life. Jesus was right. It is in giving that we receive. It is in serving that we find meaning. But not everything was easy, you see. Pedro had his moments of relapse. There were times when anxiety returned, when worry tightened its grip, especially when there was a restructuring at the bank and he was afraid of losing his job. But then he remembered another thing Jesus taught. Ask, seek, knock. Jesus said, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. This didn't mean sitting and waiting for a miracle. It meant doing his part, working well, being dedicated, being responsible, but trusting that God would do his part, and that is exactly what happened. The restructuring came, yes, but Pedro wasn't fired, and even if he were, he knew everything would be okay. He had learned to trust. A year after that anxiety attack at work, Pedro was unrecognizable, not in the physical sense, although he had lost a few pounds from being less stressed, but in the sense of his way of being. He smiled more, slept better, had patience with his children. His marriage with Carla had improved greatly. They went back to dating, to really talking, to dreaming together. Miguel no longer had those fears. He saw a father who was present, calm, happy, and that made all the difference. Pedro told me that one day, his youngest daughter, 5-year-old Laura, asked, "Dad, why are you always happy now?" And he answered, "Because I learned something important, daughter. I learned that we don't need much to be happy. I learned to live one day at a time. I learned that the most important thing isn't the things we have, but the people we love and how we treat those people." The little girl thought for a moment and said, "Just like Jesus taught, right, Dad? Grandma Teresa told me." Pedro smiled and hugged his daughter. That was exactly it, just like Jesus taught. You know, my friend, when I listen to Pedro's story, I think about one thing. We live in a world so different from that of 2,000 years ago. We have the internet, cell phones, cars, airplanes. We have technology that people back then didn't even dream of. But do you know what hasn't changed? The human heart. The anguish, the fears, the worries, the search for meaning, all of that remains the same. People in Jesus' time also worried too much. They also had anxiety. They also chased after status, appearing well in society, accumulating things. They also had relationship problems, difficulty understanding different people. That is why Jesus' teachings are so current. He wasn't talking about technology, economic systems, or politics. He was talking about the human soul, about the values that really matter. And that doesn't change with time. Jesus taught simple yet profound things. Do not worry about tomorrow. Live one day at a time. Today already has its own challenges. You don't need to carry tomorrow's as well. Trust in God. Look at how He cares for the birds, the flowers. How much more will He care for you? Do not accumulate treasures that won't last. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So, choose well where to place your heart. Be light in the world. Let your good deeds shine so that others see and also want to do good. Be salt. Give flavor and meaning to life. Don't be bland, without purpose. Seek, ask, knock. Do your part, but trust that God will do His. These teachings are as necessary today as they were 2,000 years ago, perhaps even more so. We live in an age of so much information, so much technology, so many things happening at once. It's easy to get lost in the middle of it all. It's easy to forget what truly matters. We worry about likes on social media, about what others will think, about having the newest phone, the trendy clothes. We compare ourselves all the time with others and always lose, because there is always someone with more, with better. We live anxious about the future, ruminating on the past, and forgetting to live in the present, forgetting to look into the eyes of those we love, Forgetting to be grateful for what we already have. Forgetting to be happy with simple things. And that's where Jesus comes in. Not as a distant religious figure from the past, but as a guide, a model, a reference for us to navigate this rough sea that is modern life. When anxiety tightens, remember, one day at a time. Do not be distressed about tomorrow. When the urge to have more, to buy more, to accumulate more tightens, remember, where your treasure is, there lies your heart. Choose wisely. When you feel lost without direction, remember, seek and you shall find. Do your part, trust, and the doors will open. When you think you can't make a difference in the world, remember, you are light, you are salt. Your actions matter. Pedro today works fewer hours, earns a little less, lives in a simpler house. But do you know what he told me? I am richer now than I ever was, because I have peace, I have family, I have purpose, I have faith, and no one can take that away from me. And this is the wealth Jesus spoke of, the wealth that doesn't rust, that moths don't eat, that thieves don't steal, the wealth of a heart at peace, a tranquil soul, a life with meaning. And this wealth, my friend, is available to everyone. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to have studied a lot. You don't need to be special. Jesus taught simple people, fishermen, farmers, common folk. He used examples they understood, birds, flowers, seeds, fishing, because his message was universal, and it continues to be. So if you are there, reading this story, and feeling like your life is chaos, that anxiety is eating you alive, that you can't take any more stress, worry, and rushing around, stop for a minute, take a deep breath, and remember the teachings of Jesus, simple but profound, ancient but current. Live one day at a time, trust, seek the things that really matter, be light to the world, do good, and you will see that in the middle of this storm that is modern life, there is a lighthouse, a guide, a safe reference. Jesus continues to be that lighthouse. After 2,000 years, his teachings continue to show the way to the safe harbor, the way to peace, to true happiness, to a life with meaning. That path is there, available, waiting. It only depends on us choosing to follow it. A big hug to your heart, and may you find the peace you are looking for.